Welcome back on Armour. Today I want to propose you a video about the review about the new facts released for Warhammer 40k by the Game Workshop in April 2022. This new facts has the format of the Balance Datasheet and goes to substitute the previous ones that we have seen before, and you can find eventually in the description. About such facts, I decided to create a video that it's comprehensible of all the ones. So we see the ones that has been dismissed so that we can move forward immediately, the one that has stayed the same so that simply I report them because you don't have to go to see about the previous one, but remember that it's only about the balance Dataslate. All the other facts that have been released for the armies are still valid and you can find in the description, so those ones you have to go to see because I do not repeat for each army all the ones, but only about the balance datasets this time. And I'll bring so all the facts that has been brought and so that has been kept. In this way, so we see the ones that has been dismissed, the ones that has been kept, and the new ones, so that I can analyze all of them, and we can see so how much has been changed, because there has been quite a lot of interesting change for general use and for specific armies. So now we can begin to see about such new facts. The things that has been dismissed compared to the previous balance dataset are the part about the points, all the army points, because there's been released the new chapter approved. Still inside this Dataslate we'll find some change of points for certain armies, but they are simply an adjustment that has been done here, so they can be changed in the future, not worry about. And the part about the Codex Imperial Knight and Chaos Imperial Knights, because they simply has a renewed codex, so they don't need any more that amount of facts, because simply they have the new codex to refer. Instead, some of the old facts has been kept. They are the one about the aircraft, the Necrons, the Orks, the Chaos Space Marines, and in little part about the Astra Militarum, but I'll talk with the new ones completely, because otherwise it will be a problematic to find the referral. So not worry, there will be all together about the Astra Militarum. So now we can go to see about the aircraft, because this one has changed from the only main rule that was for all the armies and has been included other ones. So simply we go to see about such fact related about the aircraft right now. That say that when mastering your army for a match play, it cannot include more than a single one aircraft, so the models with the keyword aircraft, if you are playing a combat or incursion size game. So it means that are referring about the 500 and 1000 points of the army, more than 2 models with the keyword aircraft if you are playing with a strike force sized army, so the one that it's 2000 points as limit, or more than 3 models with the keyword aircraft if you are playing with the onslaught size game, so the one that reach 3000 points. So this is a change that it's quite important, because you have a limit to the amount of aircraft that you can use, so you have to pay attention to the models that has such keyword, and it cover all the armies related, so that it can be Space Marines, generally talking, Necron or others that has such vehicles. So pay attention, because has been a great change about the way that you can compose your army itself. So it's something that you have to pay attention, and it can change your balance when you create such roster, so take note. And then we have an important change about the Necrons, because it can make you add the core keyword to the keyword section of the following datasheets, that are the Canoptech Accounts, that you can find them in the Imperial Armour Compendium, the Canoptech Reanimator, the Canoptech Frights, the Flayed Ones, Locust Destroyers, Locust Heavy Destroyers, the Ophidian Destroyers, the Corpesh Destroyers, and the Triarch Praetorians. Remember that such change it's not as simple as you can think, because it changes a lot of ways. First, you have to think about the protocols of the Necrons. Then you have to think about the abilities of the characters like Illuminotheras or simply a Technomancer, Chronomancer and so on. So it's quite important to the work of certain artifacts like the Veil of Darkness, and you have to think about something quite important like the Night Shite Transport that make you change a lot of ways. Remember that about this has been a good change, and I remember you to go to see what you can find in the description, the channel about EDIC PR 40k, cause it made an analysis, complete one, in more videos also, about such changes and what they imply to the Necrons themselves, cause has been doing a really great work about it. I don't think that it's useful to repeat everything cause it goes to specific and good analysis about such. So I invite you to go to see his videos about, and in the description you can find his channel to go to see about. So this has been a lot of nice changes because this simple keyword to such unit change a lot the ways that you can play your Necron army. So and also master and compose the rooster itself. So you have to pay attention about such change because it's more essential than any other change that you have seen. And remember that about the Necrons, you have also to remember the one that you have seen before about the number of the aircraft that are available, because they are quite important about the Necrons too. So this has been an amazing and great change that you have to remember. And then we have a change about the Orks that go to limit them, because when mastering an Orks army, it cannot include more than one of each of the following units. So you have the option to include one of each, but not more than one of each of these. So these units are the Bundaka Snacks Wagons, Custom Booster Blasters, Megatruck Scrapjets, Rukatrack Squeak Buggies, and Shock Jumps Dragstars. So these are the units that you have to pay attention that you can't multiply, so pay attention about such. I think that it's a bit of pity about such, but it's such as it is, and maybe in the future we'll change the ratio eventually, so pay attention about such. Then we have an important change about the Chaos Space Marine. That's a change about the ability Death to the False Emperor, that now it works each time a model with this ability make a melee attack, a hit roll of 6 plus, score an additional hit. So it's quite an important change and something that you have to take note about if you are going to play with Chaos Space Marines armies. And then we can go to see about the new facts released with this Balance Datasheet, and the first one is one of the most game changing that you can think about, because it's Armour of Contempt. Each time an attack is allocated to a model with the keywords Adeptus Astartes, Santic Astartes, Heretic Astartes, or Adepta Sororitas, worsen the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. So it means that a value penetration of 1 against one of the models with such power armor, so such keywords, doesn't work. So it means that even if you have a value penetration of 1, you don't make worsen that value. So still it's a 3+ saving for normal power armor. It's really quite amazing. It's complete change. And moreover, if you think that usually the most played armies are related about Space Marines, so it means that some models will have a lot of troubles, because even if you think the new models of Primaris with the army, the normal weapon that it's with a -1, doesn't work. So it means that Marine against Marine they are really more solid too, and against the Xenos are really even worse. So you have to pay quite a lot of attention about such change because it's quite important. Anyway, there are some exceptions, and it's that the models equipped with a Storm Shield, a Relic Shield, or a Combat Shield, or a Relic that replaces one of the shield can't have such Armour Contempt applied. Then there are the models with either the Sacrosanct Shield or the Force Shielding abilities, like the units of the Celestial Sacrosanct keyword, and Nemesis Dread Knight once, and the same are for the models that are under the effect of any other rule that worsen or reduce the armor penetration characteristic of an attack. So simply it doesn't supersede to the other ones, but simply it goes that it's the only one. So if you have some other effect that do the same, you can't use such. And really it's a one as new facts, as new ability that you have to remember, because it completely changes. And more you use your Space Marines armies, or anyway power armor armies, you'll really think that it's worth, because it can be really quite awesome to think about. So really pay attention about this, because it's the most important fact that we see in this balance Dataslate. And then we have another new rule that, sincerely, generally talking, it's quite good, but because I like to play a lot the Whirlwinds, I find it quite problematic, and it's indirect fire weapons. So, an indirect fire weapon is one that can target units that are not visible to the bearer, for example mortars, mass missile systems, Imperial cannon, and so on. And if such a weapon targets a unit that is not visible, for example, that no models in a target unit are visible to the firing units when you select it as a target, then each time an attack is made with that weapon against the target this phase, worsen the ballistic skill characteristic of that attack by 1 and add 1 to any armor saving throw made against that attack. So it means that you decrease your way to hit the opponent, and the opponent gain more saving throws. So it's really quite bad. But there is one exception, and it's about the Astra Militarum and indirect fire weapons, because attack made with indirect weapons by units that has the keyword Astra Militarum are unaffected by any of the indirect fire weapon rules that we have just seen. So it's really quite interesting, because a lot of weapons that could be really quite problematic, because maybe you are hiding some units and so on, in such a way it's quite interesting. But if you are, for example, using other units that for example Eliminators or Whirlwind, you could have problems, because you are really losing something quite bad. Still, if you think about talking generally, it can be really a good thing. So it's about you decide how you approach to such type of weapons right now. And then you have a new rule that it's more a change rule than a new rule effectively, and it's about bodyguard abilities. This make change the end of all bodyguard abilities from enemy models or units cannot target that character unit with ranged attacks to that character unit can use the lookout sir rule even if this unit contain fewer than 3 models. There are some notes to make, and it's that if a unit's bodyguard ability only affect a specific type of character unit, the updated version of that unit's bodyguard ability still only applies to that type of character units. For example, the cryptal protection that continue to apply only to the cryptic units. And then we have also to remember that the bodyguard abilities are such, for example, the cool-blooded bodyguard, the guardian organism, the guardian protocols, the honor guard, the operatory artillery, protectors, warm protectors, the vanguard duties, watchmen, and these rules apply to the following stratagem that confer a bodyguard ability to a unit, so implacable guardian, seer council, and shield of honor. And remember that the high tyrants within a range of the guardian organism ability gain the benefit of lookout sir even if they are characters unit with a wound characteristic greater than 9. So it's really quite interesting this one, because it doesn't seem to change a lot, but it changes quite a lot, because it means that it allows you to have a protector way, so that you can target in some way the units, the characters, but you have to pay attention that those characters gain the lookout, so it's more useful in such a way, and it's changed a bit the way that you can, I can say, use and take note about the character themselves on the battlefield. So this, even if it's not so amazing, it's a way to make that those units are even more interesting, because it's a way to save those characters even more, because it can be that they can save a lot. So pay attention, because this it's a subtle change but important one. We can begin with the specific armies. The first one that we see, it's about Adepta Sororitas. About this, I'm a bit not glad, because the Adepta Sororitas Codex has been quite new, so I don't understand why it should be in such a way an update instead of being fact directly with new facts. So okay, we take note about the changes anyway. So we had that we had to change the first bullet of the gaining miracle dice section of the Act of Fate's ability to read at the start of each turn you gain one miracle die, and the other point that we had to change is the second bullet of the stoic endurance of the Order of Various Heart conviction to read each time an attack is made against a unit with this conviction that attacks wounds roll cannot be reroll. So we had to pay attention about such if we play about Adeptus Sororitas. And then we had the fact related about the Astra Militarum that combine old facts that we've seen with new ones. One of the new facts that we see about the Astra Militarum is the Hammer of the Emperor, that say that if every unit with the keyword regiment in your army is drawn from the same regiment, then each time a model regiment from your army makes a ranged attack, and a modified hit roll of 6 automatically wound the target. It's quite crazy this, because the amount of fire that the regiments, the units of the regiment can do, it's crazy, and this it means saving a lot of wound rolls, so it's really quite interesting. And note that units listed as advisor or auxilia do not prevent other Astra Militarum units from your army from gaining this rule, but advisor and auxilia units never benefit from this rule. So it's an exception that make even more interesting this added part about the Astra Militarum. The Astra Militarum are also one of the few armies that has seen a change of points for some units, and these are related about the infantry squad unit that see a change of cost point, and you have to note that the cost of all these units for gear options is reduced to 0 points, so really quite interesting. And so the infantry squad has unit size as 10 models, and the cost is 60 points. And now we go to see about the old facts that we see in the previous Dataslate, so that we can renew them in such one. And then 3 important changes to take note. The first one is about the save characteristic of the Lemon Rust that changed to 2+, so it's quite important one to remember. Then we have the part about the vehicles. In fact, we have that when using the tank order ability of a tank commander regiment model, then you can select one friendly regiment vehicle unit, excluding the Titanic ones, within 6 inches of that regiment tank commander. It changed because before it was only referring about the Lemon Rust of the same regiment. Now it's a wider meaning, so it's not related only about Lemon Rust, but all the vehicles, excluding the Titanic ones. The next one is instead about the infantry. So it's quite important, because each time a regiment unit with the voice of command issue one of the abilities that are take aim, first rank fire, second rank fire, bring it down, forward for the Emperor, get back in fight, and fix bayonets, if it issues one of such orders to a regiment infantry unit, the same order can be used to one or more other friendly regiment infantry units, excluding the units with the keyword officer, that are within 6 units of the unit that order was originally issued to. So it's a way to double or even more the issues that you can cast. So it's quite important. So about the Astra Militarum has been a lot of changing, because the save of the Lemon Rust it's quite important. But the usage of the abilities of tank order and the voice of command abilities has changed the way that you can use your vehicles and your infantry, and so also the ratio that you are using, maybe also the officers that can cast such abilities. So it's quite important to remember such change because it modifies the way that you can compose the roster but also play your own army. So you have to pay quite a lot of attention about such changes because are quite important ones. The next codex that we see is the Adeptus Custodes that change in three ways. The first one is to change the third bullet point of the detachment abilities of an Adeptus Custodes detachment to read troops unit in Adeptus Custodes detachment gain the objective secured abilities. So it's really quite important as change. Then we had to add the sentence "you can only use this stratagem once" to the esteemed Algamam, Emperor's Auspice, and Martial Discretion stratagems. So it's a way to limit such stratagems. The last one is to change the Adeptus Custodes keyword in all instances on the Arcane Genetic Alchemy and Emperor Auspice stratagem to read Adeptus Custodes Infantry. Is to add so the keyword infantry to such stratagems so that it's more limited to the units that can take such stratagems. So pay attention about such. The first one is the most important one, and the other ones are limiting options that I think that can be quite useful. And then we had the Codex Adeptus Mechanicus, that it's the one that has seen the most number of changes. We can begin with the remove the keyword core from the keyword section of the following datasheet that are Iron Strider Ballistari and Sidonian Dragons. Then we had to change the first bullet point of the Solar Blessing Lucius dogma to read each time an attack with a damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to a model with this dogma, unless that model is receiving the benefits of light cover, add 1 to any armor saving throw made against that attack. So it's a way to have always the gaining of the light cover practically. Then we have the only used twice stratagem for the clandestine infiltration stratagem. Instead, using only once the stratagem acquisition at any cost. Then we had to change the last sentence of the galvanic volley fire stratagem to read until the end of that phase. Galvanic rifles models in that unit are equipped with have a type characteristic of EV3. It's quite interesting. Then we had to change the TCP cost of the enriched round stratagem to make that to 1 to 2 command points and add the following to the end of this stratagem. It make that if that unit contains 11 or more models, this stratagem costs 2 command points. Otherwise, so if it's less than 11, so 10 models or less, it costs 1 command point. In addition, change the end of the last sentence of this stratagem to read unmodified successful hit roll of 5 plus automatically wound the target. So quite a lot of ways related about the stratagems specific for the Adeptus Mechanicus, so you have to pay attention. And what concerns me, it's the part about the removing the keyword core, because it's really quite important one, the base for the core keyword. So you have to pay attention if you are going to play with the Adeptus Mechanicus, because this is the main change that you have to pay attention about. And then we have a fact about the Space Marines, and it's due because it's related about the Armour of Contempt that we have seen before, and it's related about one of the traits about the Salamanders forged in battle. In fact, it goes to substitute the before one, that it was each time an attack with an armor penetration characteristic of -1 is allocated to a model with this tactic. That attack has an armor penetration characteristic of 0 instead. So it was like having a double of the Contempt one. So now it's that each time an attack is made against a unit with this tactic, that attack roll cannot be rerolled. really it's crazy this one, because it means that it forbid stratagems, it forbid abilities. It's even better than ever you have seen about, because it means that really you have only the roll and you can't re-roll anything about the wound roll. So it's crazy. It's worth for both the ranged and close combat. Really nice. So pay attention about such change, because if you play the salamanders, you gain quite a lot. And then we have the Death Guard Codex, and here we have an important addition to the detachment abilities of a Death Guard detachment, and it's that units with the keyword Blightlord Terminatus and Death Shroud Terminatus in a Death Guard detachment gain the ability Objective Secured. So it's really quite important, because it's really a way to make even more solid the Death Guard itself. So pay attention about such, because if you are going to play the Death Guard, it's important to remember such point. And then we have the Codex Drukari that see a lot of change also. The first one, it's quite important because it's about removing the keyword core from the keyword section of the datasheets of Talos and Kronos. So really quite important one. The next ones are about the obsessions that it's noted that remain all consuming. The first one is change the second bullet point of Agile Hunter's obsession to read if a unit with this obsession with the combat drugs ability has the Hypex ability, add 3 inch to that unit move characteristic instead of 2 inch. The second one is to change the first sentence of the Dark Technomancer obsession to read each time a unit with this obsession is selected to shoot, you can choose to enhance any or all of the ranged weapon models in that unit are equipped with. So pay attention about, and the note moreover is that liquefier guns and twin liquefier guns can never be enhanced. The last of the obsession that has been changed is to change the Artist of Flesh obsession to read each time an attack is allocated to a model with this obsession, excluding vehicles models, unless that attack has a strength characteristic of 8 or more, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack to a minimum of 1. So there are really quite a lot of change, and you have to understand if it change your way to play with the Drukari themselves. And then we have about the Harlequin Codex. Here we have some changes that are quite important, and one of the few change points that we see in such Dataslate. The first one is change the Mirror Architect pivotal role to read in your command phase, select one friendly Sedat core unit within 9 inch of this model until the start of your next command phase. Each time an enemy unit is selected to shoot, when measuring the range to any model in that Sedat unit, it is considered to be an additional 6 inch away from the shooting model. And it's quite important, this one, because it's a way or to make lose the range to that target, so it's quite important one, or to change the damage. For example, think about the thermal weapons, so it's quite important. The next one is to change the favor in the Chegorat Warlord trait to read once per turn when you make a melee hit roll, a melee wound roll, or a saving throw from this warlord. After making the roll, you can treat the result as an unmodified roll of 6 instead. It's quite important both that you see as a saving or a damaging roll, so it's quite important one. Then we see the change points that we see with the Harlequins. The first one is about the Star Wheelers, that it's a unit size of one model and it costs 95 points. The other one is about the Void Weavers, that see a unit size from 1 to 3 models and unit cost of 130 points for model. So it's quite a lot of interesting changes, even if few, for the Harlequins themselves as codex. And then we had the facts listed about the Tau Codex. And as I said for the Adepta Sororitas, I don't like that are here because they should have their own fact, because it's a recent codex, this one, so it should not be condensed everything here. Anyway, we go to see about such changes. The first one is to change the second bullet point of the Montka ability to read each time a mod in this unit make a ranged attack that target the closest eligible enemy unit within the range shown in the table below, reroll a wound roll of 1. The second point that has been changed is to change the first bullet point of the devastating counterstrike, the Farsight Enclaves tenet, and read each time a mod with this tenet makes a ranged attack that targets a unit within 9 inch, the target is treated as having a Marklight token. The next one is to remove, so this is important, the keyword core by the keyword section of the broadside battlesuit datasheet. So it's quite important, this one, because it changes quite a lot the way that you create your rooster. And the last one is to add in the following to the repulsor impact field and the photon grenades stratagems. It makes that the charge roll modifier incurred via this stratagem is not cumulative with any other negative modifier to a unit's charge roll. So it's really quite important as changing, and they're related about the Tau, so take note about such changes. So from Dino Mode it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.